Okay, so suppose you've been working on some of these tutorials and you kind of understand how to make a circle or how to make a square and how to extrude and how to take things out, but you don't quite see how all of that would enable you to make a real thing. I'm going to try to show you an example, and hopefully this will shed some light on it. So we're going to try to make a desktop organizer, something that would hold your pens and pencils and paper, and maybe you could find an example of something like that. So most of the time, what you're going to do when you actually make an object is you're going to have to make a big block of stuff and then cut away from it like a sculpture in order to leave yourself with what you actually want. So here we go. Let's make this desktop organizer. We're going to say sketch. We're going to say where to sketch on here. And I'm going to start with the square rectangle tool. And I'm going to say a corner rectangle. And let's make this rectangle. And this is what we're starting with. So we need to figure out how big does the whole thing need to be. So you're actually going to go look at the desktop organizer, or whatever you want to make, and imagine how big is the whole thing. So I have one here, and it's about 6 inches. So I'm going to take the dimension tool and come down here and click on this. I'm going to say it's 6 inches long. And I'm going to take my dimension tool over here, and I'm going to say it's 4 inches deep. And then I'm going to go to my extrude tool over here, and the highest part of the desktop organizer is about 4 inches high. So now we've got this block of stuff. We're looking at the front of it here. So the sort of holes in a desktop organizer come from the top. So we're going to move and look at it from the top, and I'll click over here on my cube. And so right now you'd have a block of plastic, but we need to now make the stuff where the papers are going to go. How do we do that? Let's go and sketch again. And let's sketch on top of my block. And for the first part, I'm going to use the rectangle tool again. And at least in my desktop organizer, the sort of slots go from one end all the way to the other end. And they're a little bit more than a ½ inch long. So for now, just to go fast, I'm just going to do it by hand. And how far apart are the slots? Not much. The pieces of plastic are pretty thin. So I'm going to make another rectangle right next to that one. And again, you would probably want to measure these to be sure how far apart they are and how wide these rectangles are. But for speed, I'm just going to do it fast. All right, so now we've got 4 potential slots for our papers, but these are just lines. We didn't cut anything out yet. How do we do that? We go back to our extrude, and instead of saying add or new, we say remove. Right now, how far is it removing? 1 inch. What if I put, remember how big how tall this desktop organizer was? 4. What if I put 4 and enter? Let's look at that. Whoa. Well, that's not going to work. These things are no longer connected to each other. Okay, so these just would fall over. We need the bottom there. We don't want, so I'm going to go back to extrude over here. Right click, edit. Instead of making the depth of that cut 4 inches, let's make it 3.75. So the whole thing was 4. If we cut it to 3.75, there's going to be a 1/4 inch of stuff left at the bottom. Let's check mark this and see what it looks like now. See? That's more like what we want. Now we have slots that we can put our papers in. And what about our pens and pencils? Let's look at the top again up here, and let's sketch on top, and let's now take a circle. And I'll say a center point circle, and let's look at it straight from the top. Clicked on my thing to look at the square. You know what? Just for fun, I could do this. You know what? I will do it. Center point circle. And now we've got the circle. Now we extrude. And let's pick remove here. And let's do 3.75. And see what it looks like. And yeah, you got your slot for your pencils. But this is where you can be creative, because you know some more things than that. I'm going to get rid of this extrude. Right click, delete. And instead of a circle, let's say sketch on top. This might be a good time for an ellipse. And click here. So by pulling up and down, I'm making I made the length, but now that I clicked once, going sideways shows how much elliptical space I have. And now I made my ellipse. Now let's go to the extrude, and let's remove 3.75. And ha! See, that's cool. That's neat. And then I might even, for fun, sketch on here and write my name. See what that looks like. Huh, okay, so, and I could engrave that in there. All right, so there you go. That's how you could make a desktop organizer, and that's the basic principle of how you make most things. You create a big block of stuff, and then you cut away from it what you need. Sometimes you may need to make more than one part and add to things, but this will get you started.